If you have no idea what this series is, then I understand how you're thinking this is really weird. You might even be wondering, why the heck did I click on this video? Maybe it was your curiosity. You're intrigued to figure out what the heck I'm doing in this stupid looking thumbnail where I'm portrayed as both a boy and a man. What is this all about? Well, this is the fourth installment in a series that I started probably a year ago, if not longer than a year ago. And it was quite an experiment, and I was really surprised to see how many of you guys really took to it and enjoyed it and kept asking for more. So I decided, you know what, why not try to expand this a little bit more? I'm gonna give you a real brief overview of what the heck we're doing in this video, and then we'll get into the fragrances, because I know that's ultimately why you're here. You don't care about my rhetoric or my reasoning, you just want
the fragrance recommendations. I get it.
To sum it up, this video is intended to offer alternatives to popular fragrances that you already know, maybe you already love, maybe you don't care for, but either way, you are bombarded with them on social media in regards to the fragrance community. These are fragrances you see everywhere, and you see them for a reason. They're really popular. They are surefire ways to get compliments. Maybe they perform really strongly. Whatever it may be, these fragrances are highly regarded for a reason. However, as with any niche that involves products, it's so easy for a select few of the products to become super popular and therefore overshadowing so many other wonderful fragrances. So I'm here to just shed some light on some fragrances you don't see talked about often and offer them as alternatives to popular fragrance recommendations. Now that's all fine and dandy, but I wanted to add another layer of intrigue to this series with this whole boy, dude, guy, man thing. So what the heck is all that? Basically, these are ways for me to personify the personality of a fragrance. These are simply my observations. They are my classifications. You do not have to adopt them as your own. They are not intended to bottleneck you or pigeonhole you into a particular personality type. These are personalities that you can choose at will, meaning these are fragrances that you can choose at will. You can hop between personalities as much as you want because we're different every day. We are dynamic beings. So to sum up the boy personality, the boy is youthful, simply wants to smell good, and he wants to be liked with very little effort. He has no problem following the crowd. In fact, he relies on it. The dude still wants to simply smell good, but has grown up a little bit, has matured a little bit. Maybe has a job, maybe doesn't love that job, but totally content with confining his fun into his days off. Not a whole lot of substance happening yet, but there's potential. We have the guy, another natural evolution of the dude. The guy has a higher taste in things, is a little bit more mature, is a little bit more wise, has been around the block a couple times, but is still influenced by the in crowd. So he can afford and has interest in higher quality, more elevated taste things, but is still trying to fit in more or less. And the man. The man is not concerned with the negative opinions of other people. The man is not concerned with popularity. The man is confident and timeless and places a lot of value in elegance and authenticity. So once again, these are simple personalities. These are not people. Does not have to be you. They are tied to the fragrances we're going to talk about. So I have 5 popular fragrances I'm going to offer alternatives to. I'm going to describe each one of them very simply with one of these personalities in conjunction with either a fresh or a sweet descriptor to briefly sum up the fragrance, and I'm using that descriptor to then connect it to my alternative. I hope all that makes sense, so let's dive right into it. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've definitely heard about Jazz Club from Maison Margiela. Definitely in the top 3 in terms of highly discussed, highly sought after fragrances from this house. It's a lovely scent. It is so attractive. It's so easy to wear. This is what I would categorize as dude sweet. It's not boyish. It's not super juvenile. It's not the most elegant. It definitely smells like it is trying to fit in and to be liked, but there's a little bit more class to it. It's supposedly a boozy tobacco. I don't get much tobacco. Maybe in the dry down on my skin, it gets a little bit dry and slightly earthy, but it's mostly sweet, spicy, rich, kind of balsamic maybe, and very alluring. Really good stuff, but again, it's everywhere. Lalique, Ombre, Noire. So this fragrance does not smell like Jazz Club, but it might serve the similar purposes. It might even have some overlap in terms of elements that comprise it. And that goes for all these fragrances. I'm not giving purely olfactory alternatives. They're more function and vibe alternatives. And more importantly, with this video, personality alternatives. So Ombre Noire is also boozy. It's woody. It's dry, warm, and spicy. A little bit kind of fresh in a way. It almost has this summery night feel to it. It's a fun fragrance to wear in the evening time, cold or warm, really. I think it does well for both. It's a relatively light scent profile, meaning it's not gonna push and fill the air around you. It is gonna sit on the skin a decent while. I get 6 to 8 hours, no problem. It does smell fun, but it smells a little bit more interesting. I think it's the texture of the scent. It's this pretty pervasive, dry, woody quality, almost like a dry wooden barrel that is filled with cinnamon and rum or something, and just it smells very distinctive. It smells not like everything else out there, but it's also easy to understand. I think it's a great alternative to consider. That is Ombre Noire from Lalique. Up next, this is not what I would consider a tried and true popular fragrance because it's not that old. It actually came out maybe this year, 2024, if not last year, 2023. But since its release, it has gotten a lot of airtime. It's gotten a lot of discussion. As expected, Valentino Uomo, born in Roma, Green Stravaganza. These names of these fragrance flankers are getting so long, it's ridiculous, but what can we do? So this fragrance to me is nothing special. It doesn't really do anything new. It has this alleged coffee note that is supposed to stand out amongst maybe some fresher ingredients, maybe some spice. I don't know all the notes. Ultimately, it's kind of fresh. It is sweet in this bubblegum modern way that we expect out of a lot of male marketed mainstream fragrances. Maybe a little bit of coffee warmth on the skin, a little bit. Overall, this is what I'd call boy sweet. It is very boyish. It's very juvenile. It is something that smells likable, but if you consider yourself to have a little bit more sophistication, you may not care for this. But once again, you don't have to bottleneck yourself. If you have moments where you want to be boy sweet, then this is a great one to consider, but it's going to be everywhere and it's quite expensive for a designer fragrance. So let's recommend an alternative. Now, this fragrance isn't technically cheaper than the Valentino, but it is from a well-known niche brand that is known for its quality, known for its elegance, and it's really not that much more expensive. You can easily find a full bottle of this for under $200, maybe $180 or something like that. I would obviously recommend a sample first, but if you want to splurge on the bottle, it's only going to cost you maybe like $50 more than getting the Valentino. This is from Xerjoff and it's Commandante. Now, admittedly, this is not my favorite fragrance from Xerjoff. There's nothing about it I don't like. I just don't love it. The overall profile smells boy sweet. It smells like some other designer fragrances, like a mix of Jean Paul Gaultier, Le Male, Armani Code, vibes like that. This kind of creamy, soft, fresh, sweet. I think it's got fruits and honey, maybe some tobacco. I don't quite remember, but it's really smooth. It's good quality, but the overall profile, the personality of it does not really smell like a niche fragrance to me, but it's really good. The quality is good, but the personality is just kind of mainstream. But it's definitely not as discussed today as the Valentino, and honestly, I just like it more. It doesn't have that bubblegum sweetness. It doesn't smell quite as juvenile. It just smells super likable. Again, maybe not that different from anything you've tried. So maybe get a sample of Xerjoff Commandante. I have a lot of words I could say about this fragrance. In terms of how it has been discussed, how it's been hyped from Sospiro, this is vibrato. Again, I have words I could say. I'm not going to say them, but I think you know this fragrance. I think you've seen it talked about. You might have it. Maybe you've sampled it. Either way, this stuff has been hyped like crazy since its release. Bottom line is it's known to resemble Bulgari Tiger. It does smell quite similar. Regardless of that, it's a nice scent. It's kind of fresh, powdery, woody, citrusy, very musky in this synthetic but high quality synthetic way. It's a simple scent profile. It smells really good in the air. It has good performance. It checks all the boxes for a lot of people. If you're looking for compliments and nothing else, then apparently this is something you can wear. But I would hope you love it before deciding to actually put it on your skin. But to me, it disappointed me. I was expecting a whole lot more out of this before I got it because of all the hype, and I got it and I just realized this is kind of a simple profile that smells good, but it's not new. It's kind of a clone, and that's okay. It happens. And I would call this guy fresh. The quality of it, the way it's composed, it's elevated. There's a higher taste here, but it is still trying to fit in with the in crowd. Let's find a fragrance that kind of straddles this same line in terms of personality, but I think is honestly way better. It honestly feels a little bit like a disservice to call this guy fresh. I might even call it man fresh, but I think it straddles the line. It can have an easygoing quality to it that is very likable and very attractive while still having this standout distinctive quality. So it does kind of straddle. This is from Ormonde, Jayne, and this is Montabaco Intensivo. This is relatively new to my collection. I have tried it in the past. Well, at least I tried the original Montabaco. So I got familiar with the DNA. I have another one of its flankers as well that I also love and talk about quite a bit. Ormonde, Jayne sent this over to me recently per my request, and man, it is sweeping me off my feet. It far exceeds and transcends the Guy Fresh moniker, but for the sake of the video, we're going with it. It is fresh, but it's fresh in a very distinctive way. It uses a lot of aroma chemicals, not too different from Vibrato. It uses a ton of Iso E Super, so it's very sharp, woody, musky, very upfront in that regard, very woody, but quite fresh. Uses some aromatic herbs in there. Uses a really soft and elegant earthy tobacco note that does not come to the fore. It's a very summery, fresh tobacco, but the Intensivo version of it is denser, it's richer, it's gonna sit on the skin for longer, might even leave a bigger trail, and ultimately it's gonna be really likable in the air. So if you want something different, something that not everyone's talking about, and honestly, I way prefer this to Vibrato as far as the scent personality goes, then maybe check this one out. I know a lot of you guys already dig it. So if you do, let other people know and let me know down in the comments what you think of Montabaco Intensivo. And if you have not yet tried it, there's going to be links to this and everything else down in the description. I call this fragrance Man Sweet. Although it is super hyped, I have a lot of respect for it. I really like this fragrance. I've liked it more and more with time, and I'm happy to have it. This is Black Phantom from Kilian. I think it came out 2017, took the community by storm, myself included. It just took me some time to come around to finally getting a bottle. Man, if you know this stuff, it's rich, sweet, vanilla, caramel, booze, coffee. It's so dense, it's delectable, it's mouth-watering, but it has this base to it, this very wearable base where it's not just totally gourmand. There's like a rough darkness to the scent. I want to say it's almost like a leathery or a woody quality in the background that adds texture, that adds this body scent quality to it. So it doesn't just smell like you're smearing desserts all over yourself. It smells like a scent you would smell on a person, and it is a powerhouse. How would I offer an alternative to this? Well, I'm gonna do it. So here we go. Another Man Sweet fragrance. This is also sweet and dark, definitely a little bit more rough around the edges than Black Phantom's. Gonna have more of a confident quality to it. So you definitely want to sample this one before buying. This is Zafar from Oman Luxury. And this is an oud based fragrance. I do believe it's an oud rose, technically speaking. Uses some balsams in there. So it has a resinous quality to it, a little sweet. Oh man, kind of like fruity sweet in a way, but dark, a little animalistic, a tad bit funky, but primarily up close. And just for like the first 10 minutes or so, that oud does settle down. It smells so elegant. Again, does not smell like Black Phantom, does not have this delectable mouth-watering quality to it in the same way, but it can serve a similar function, and it just has a vibe that can be compared to Black Phantom. It has this strength to it, this darkness to it, this allure to it, but it's authoritative. That is Zafar from Oman Luxury. Let me know if you've tried this one. Incredible stuff. And finally, from the house of Xerjoff, probably the most hyped fragrance from the house, we have Naxos. And I see a lot of people complaining about Naxos these days, saying that it's weak, that it's been neutered. I have people ask me, where did I get this bottle, this darker bottle, which I think is a slightly older batch, but not by much. I checked it at one point. It's no more than a year or two old, I think. I see why people like it. For me, it's a little much. I do call it Guy Sweet. It has some complexity to it. It has some thought behind it. It has an elevated quality to it, but it's not quite that super confident, non-boisterous, don't need a ton of attention fragrance that a man personality has, in my opinion. This is Guy, so it's almost there. There's a lot going on here. It has a distinctive quality to it, and therefore it is a little polarizing. Lots of honey and lavender and tobacco. It's very sweet. It's almost mentholic in its sweetness. It has lemon, I think, and some people say that the combination of all these elements with the lemon makes it smell a little bit like Pledge or some kind of kitchen cleaner. I see what they mean. It can become nauseating if you spray too much, and honestly, I could see how a less strong version of it would be more palatable, might even be more enjoyable. And I know some of you guys are going to think that's blasphemy, and maybe you're upset with the batch that you have, wishing that it was stronger, but that's just how I feel. It's a little bit much. I don't don't reach for it a ton. My wife doesn't absolutely love it, so I'm pretty cautious with how I wear this fragrance, and I don't talk about it a lot because it's talked about everywhere. You don't need me to tell you about it. Everyone is talking about it. So what's an alternative to Xerjoff Naxos? This fragrance is by no means unknown. It is a little bit of a forgotten gem. I think it had its limelight some years ago, around the time that I was just getting started in the community. No one talks about it that much these days. In fact, this brand is pretty quiet as far as the brands that people are generally talking about today. But man, this is such a beautiful scent. Now, I can't tell you that it's going to be as attention-getting as Naxos can be. People call it a compliment monster. I think any fragrance can get you compliments as long as you love it and wear it with confidence, but again, no guarantees can be made. And funnily enough, this fragrance does smell a little bit similar to Naxos. It has some crossover, which was kind of unintentional. This is from Ineke, and it's called Field Notes from Paris. Again, nothing new in the community, but no one's really talking about it today. This is this beeswax, so it has a honey feel with tobacco flower. It's this rich, non-powdery, elegant floral feel. There's a little bit of this dry woodiness behind it that makes it feel pretty masculine. There is still a bit of a freshness to it, almost like a lavender freshness. So again, some crossover with Naxos, but this does not go into nauseating territory for me. This does not become boisterous. It does not become over-exaggerated, and similar to what I talked about with the Ormonde Jayne, this could straddle between man and guy for me. It really depends on what situation you might want to find yourself in. It's kind of versatile in that way, but it is still a distinctive scent personality. I think it's really special. I think it's worth getting a sample. If you have not done so yet, I'm going to link to what I can find down below. I think it's a fine alternative. Beautiful perfumery. That is Ineke, Field Notes from Paris. This video series is all about discussion, so I want to know what you think down in the comments about these personalities and where you think you fall, how you bounce around, all that stuff. It's all fair game. Let's talk about it. Once again, links to all fragrances in the description, and thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.